Let's head right to the voicemail of Truth and Reason.
Joe Flacco's numbers with the Colts last year looked a whole lot like Joe Flacco's numbers with us, and without the winning part, which had a large amount to do with our defense and how good that is. So I'm not going to think that Joe Flacco is going to take us to the promised land. Our defense is, and if we can get our running game going, that's the chance for us to go to the playoffs.
As always, appreciate all of the voicemails. Let's welcome in Garrett Bush from the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show in the Barbershop. Gee, Bush, yes, that is true. The one thing is, Joe Flacco is 41 years old. Not the list of guys that have been really successful in the NFL playing quarterback at over 40 is one, Tom Brady.
Yeah. Father Time is undefeated, as they do say. And even as we get a little older, everybody has this thing where, you realize your mortality. You start to think about legacy and family and all these other cool little things that you got. I thought it was a cool story when Joe Flacco came back the first time. He said it was kind of weird because, his kids never really got a chance to see him play when he was in his prime with the Baltimore Ravens. So it was kind of cool to give him like a second shot at life, so to speak, and having his kids be able to watch him. So for me, you look at it, and Flacco is 41 years old. And at some point in time, it always boils back down to the Cleveland Browns and whether or not they can find a quarterback. And, we've been kind of in this period, and I kind of compared it to on the barbershop. I said it's almost like, being in the second grade forever. It's cool. Obviously, there's some really cool things that happen when you're in second grade. You can go in recess, and you got art, and you draw, and it's you play with your students and your fellow classmates. But then you get to a point where you're like, if you get held back in the second grade and everybody else goes to the third grade, that's not so fun. Think about what you're doing the Cleveland Browns. You've been in the second grade since 1989. Have not won a division since '89. And you look around and you say, wow, we've been lapped. Baltimore has found both of their quarterbacks. During this time, we couldn't beat, the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton, and they went to the They were going to playoff games for the Bengals. We couldn't beat Roethlisberger. We couldn't beat Joe Flacco and the Baltimore Ravens. Now you look around, the Bengals, they now have another franchise quarterback in Joe Burrow. The Ravens have had Joe Flacco who won a Super Bowl, but also the Ravens found out a way to win a Super Bowl with like a journeyman in Trent Dilfer. And then they go and luck up and get Lamar Jackson in the first pick I believe the last pick in the first round.
Yep.
So it's like one of those things where if the Cleveland Browns want to be into the conversation and get where they need to go, they need to find a quarterback. And it's imperative that they see what they got in these young two guys right now. Or, they got to figure out what they got next year. But until they get that part right, we're still going to always be in the second grade.